Fuck it. No script. What's going on, everybody? I've been thinking about making this for a while. I just want to make a vlog to talk about my travels this past Christmas because I went on a very big trip, a real journey, and I really want to make a video to talk about what happened. Maybe relive the experience a little bit, share some stories. And it was just such a crazy thing to do. And, first of all, I just want to say hi again. I uploaded that Valorant video and saw there was comments from people that I didn't expect. Like people saying, hey, glad you're back. Hey, good to see you fragging in Valorant. And I was like, damn, there's like not all these people. There's just this whole kind of area of my life on YouTube where people have subscribed and I just haven't uploaded or talked to or connected with the people on there. And I was like, man, YouTube is where I started. YouTube is what I love. YouTube is not what I love. Making videos is, though. Definitely making videos is. I used to do this for the comments and not so much the views, and definitely not the money. Never received a proper paycheck from doing YouTube videos, but still always just loved doing it. Something about how I can make something long form on YouTube and it can work, and how it's not ephemeral like Twitch. It doesn't disappear when you're done. It's there forever. I think that's really awesome. So want to make this vlog. I think is probably a good idea, and I hope you enjoy it. It's this trip that I took in December, and right now I'm still casting. So I'm like thinking as I go, like, wow, what are all the things that people might not even realize? And I guess first I'll say I still work in CSGO. I'm still a caster, casting a lot, working a lot on my casting, loving casting. And for some of you who may know, I used to really, really hate it. And now I really love it, honestly. So that's awesome. And at the end of the year, one of the last events of the year is Blast Bahrain Global Finals, $500,000 finals in Bahrain, which is this kind of island peninsula off of Saudi Arabia, really remote in some sense, kind of like a vacation area in the Middle East, sort of like Dubai, kind of close to Dubai, honestly. A pretty crazy place to be, for sure. And I think, Bahrain actually, because the Kingdom of Bahrain hooked us up with these incredible flights, and Blast hooked us up with these incredible flights where I was flying Emirates, business class, like 15 hours basically, and first class lounges and business class, and we had like the seats that turn into beds and unlimited chamomile tea throughout the night. And I was just on this plane playing Breath of the Wild on my Switch, lying down on my bed, not sleeping, ringing my bell for Jeeves to come bring me my chamomile tea. It was pretty amazing. And before all this, I had my good friend and former co-caster and just guy I hang out with all the time, Van Silly, is getting married around Christmas, and a couple months before, he asked if I wanted to come. And being the impulsive person I am, I just asked my girlfriend, who at that point, I think I'd seen her maybe like 8 weekends or something like that in total. I was like, hey, do you want to go to Vietnam to go to my friend's wedding? And it was kind of get to go to the wedding and be at my really good friend's wedding, and also get to travel Southeast Asia and do something crazy, something that I've never done before and always wanted to do. And because CSGO is not so popular, Thailand, Vietnam, I thought, this could be a chance that I get that I don't get later. Maybe I'll never get to go to Vietnam or something like that. So I thought, why don't we do this? And I love pho. You know what I mean? I've developed a love for bun cha, cafe suada, like all the Vietnamese delights. I've developed a love for those, and have definitely ordered some of the others in the past, and have some Vietnamese friends and stuff. So definitely had an interest in doing it, but still knew very little about the actual country. Um, and so I got blast to book my flight to Bahrain from Toronto. And then I think the event ran from December 11th to the 15th. And then booked my flight from Bahrain to Vietnam, business class on Emirates. So I had a pretty enjoyable flight to Asia, which most of the time for people in North America, they know it's a grueling flight. It's not very fun. It's usually economy unless you're rich. And so I can't complain. Definitely set that up well where, I went from the event to going to Asia. I did have to pack a lot and it was kind of a pain to get around. And I could still remember all of the problems going through the airports and shit with all of my luggage and just how uncomfortable it was. But man, it was definitely worth it. And after the trip, we spent 36 days in Vietnam, in 3 different parts of Vietnam. And then we went to northern Thailand and then southern Thailand and then the islands. And then from there, I went to London for 3 weeks for Blast Spring Series that started in 2020. So ended the year at the Blast Global Finals and then began the year at the Spring Series of London, the last 3 weeks or the first 3 weeks of February, I believe, and never went home. So after all was said and done, I got home after like 70 days of traveling or something. The longest stint for sure that I'd ever been on. And that was all pretty recently. So we decided my friend Van Silly, his wedding was in Ho Chi Minh City, or Saigon, as they would say in Ho Chi Minh City. And this is in the southern part of Vietnam. And we decided that we would go somewhere else first. So originally we wanted to go to Japan and then spend Christmas in Tokyo and then fly to Vietnam after that. And we were kind of me and Connor were offered a job at Epicenter, but then it fell through because they didn't respond to us after they reached out. And so I ended up canceling and moving my plans and skipping Japan because of it. Didn't even go to that event, which was kind of annoying, but it's what happens in esports. And so we ended up going just to Vietnam and going to Hanoi, which is in the north of Vietnam. I got these tattoos here, and I'll explain those in a second. And we spent 11 days, I think. I'm going to get some of these wrong. It's been some time now, but maybe 11 days in Hanoi, which is a real different planet. It's nuts. It's nuts. Yeah, Hanoi is, to kind of explain it to you, what you would think of if you've never been to Asia or a place like Vietnam, somewhere it's a little bit more poor, a little bit more cheap, pretty dense. It's got, I think you kind of have an idea of what it looks like if you've maybe watched, I don't know what movies you could have watched that would give you some context for what it would be like to be in Vietnam, but I'm sure you have some kind of idea. It's probably close. But in Vietnam, it's kind of interesting because the south is much different from the north. There's so much. Vietnam has gone through so much war that the north has shaped itself entirely differently. The south is more like America, and the north it feels like a rural version of the south with just as many people. There's so many scooters everywhere all the time. You can't cross the street unless you learn how to do it. And the way to do it, it's pretty simple. You just have to be brave enough, is to walk without stopping. So you walk at the same speed and the scooters will pass by you. And they are the ones who judge how fast you're walking so that they can go around you. And there's tons of scooters, it's like millions of scooters. And there are definitely a lot of accidents, but at the same time, people are pretty good drivers. Like, I think I only got bumped into as a pedestrian crossing the street in a city that didn't have any stoplights pretty much, or none of the stoplights mattered at all. Every major intersection would be 4 ways of traffic all going into each other perpetually throughout the entire day. I only got bumped into once or twice. slightly nicked, but it's a crazy place for that reason. And for us traveling, my girlfriend hadn't been to Asia before. I hadn't been to Asia before. Um, I didn't think she was adventurous enough to come to Asia. I mean, I knew I like loved to travel. No, I thought this was a very big trip to take unless you'd done a lot of traveling. But she wanted to commit to it, do it properly, do the whole thing. And for both of us being in Hanoi, it was pretty exhausting to walk around a city that is so dense, so much traffic, just constant beeping, scooters everywhere, and to be tourists who don't want to get on a scooter and walk around. It was very draining. It took a lot out of you. And I think, what's crazy about that is like when all is said and done, now that I look back on my trip, Hanoi was one of my favorite parts. But when we spent our time there, because of how laborious it was to get through every day, the same struggles of just doing something simple like crossing the street took so much like mental energy. I feel like I was burning calories trying to calculate my odds of survival every time I would want to get across the road. And it felt almost difficult to enjoy. But then I look back and I think, man, the food was amazing. I think of the entire trip, we had pho almost every single day, which is one of my favorite foods. And to see how it's eaten and enjoyed there and how accessible it is and how communal it is, which I'll talk about, I just kind of left a really good impression in my mind. And I'd say of my whole trip, the meal that stood out to me most was a bowl of $1.70 bowl of pho that we got just outside of Hanoi, just north of Hanoi. And that's saying a lot, because we had tons of great food. Eating pho, if you guys are familiar, pho basically is a bowl of beef broth that has been stewing overnight, and with like bone marrow and cartilage and tendon and rare beef that you can get in it, or different stuff. But some people get rare beef, some people get beef balls, and you eat it with the tripe and tendon if you want, which I think you should, and the bean sprouts and basically some hot chilies. And it's a very simple dish with noodles, and it's delicious. It's cheap. It's very versatile. There's never really a mood where you wouldn't want to have it. It's not very heavy food. And it's everywhere in Vietnam. And the cool part about eating it there is that when you go to a restaurant, like we'd go in the morning to get some pho, and there would be like a lineup outside, and then it'd be a tiny place, place would be maybe 8 feet wide, pretty deep, and you'd line up, you'd pay your money at the door, whatever it was, $2 or something like that. You'd go take a seat on a long lunch table like you'd have in an auditorium at school. You sit down beside maybe 10 other people who are all eating beside you. No one's really talking. Some people are, but they bring you a bowl of pho without even asking you what you want. You just get the rare beef, the sometimes tendon, whatever. And then you'd have a communal plate of bean sprouts and chilies, and you just take those and put it in your pho, and then you eat, and then you leave. And then you go down the street, you get a cafe suada, which is a coffee with Robusta beans, condensed milk and ice. And you'd get like maybe 4 of those in a day, maybe a couple of phos. And at the end of the day, you've only spent like $10. And I think maybe that's the most charming part about all of it, is that if you raise the price of Vietnam, it starts to lose its appeal. But for the price, I feel like, how can you beat that experience? There was so much culture shock, which is beautiful. So much war, which was terrible and tragic, but at the same time bred kind of a very interesting landscape of architecture as well as history. And we took a lot of guided tours to learn more about the city and to learn about kind of the French colonization and the U.S. getting involved, and how China is bordering Vietnam, and how they wanted to, bring communism to Vietnam while the U.S. wanted to stop it, and how Vietnam was just caught in the middle of all this, and how because of that, it's that kind of you could see it bleed over into everything from the architecture to the way people are, to, I mean, Agent Orange is a prevalent thing there. People have deformities still for generations, and a lot of people are still alive from these crazy times in the war. But then also the influence on the food, and how a lot of the food that they eat is specifically cheap and easy to make, and also does not spoil easily. So, for example, Cafe Suada, which is like amazing coffee. It's not great it's not great. I don't think it's great for your health because it uses condensed milk, but it used condensed milk because condensed milk was great in war times because it could last a long time. And then they use the condensed milk, which is very sweet and tastes delicious, to balance out the Robusta beans, which were a cheaper form of the Arabica beans that are more expensive, but not quite as bitter. And so Cafe Suada specifically uses this cheaper kind of coffee because of, the fact that the country was like poorer and been through and so war torn. And it's like the beverage of choice for everybody. And I think that's so kind of interesting and charming. And I love that, like, even today, even if you were to have a bit more money, that would still kind of be, I think, your drink of choice. That's just Vietnamese coffee, which is fantastic and delicious. And I mean, I recommend it. I think about it all the time, and I order it whenever I see it. But yeah, Hanoi was pretty fantastic. And Vietnam is also known for its tailors. So I ended up getting a few suits made. Some of those are on my Instagram as well. I had like an all red kind of silk blend suit made from head to toe. And man, hella cheap. I spent maybe $200 per suit. I had one made in Bahrain before I left, which is actually even cheaper. It was 150 US. And then I had I think 3 suits made. I had the black one, a red one, and I had a black one, a red one, and a purple purple paisley suit, like a purple bandana suit almost. It didn't look like that exactly, but I had those all made in Vietnam, and yeah, extremely cheap. And the thing was, before I left, I had a suit made at Suit Supply in Toronto with very good material, but for $1,000, for $1,000. And if you get up to $1,000, then and you're spending $200 in Vietnam, then you think, well, it's got to be at least five times better quality, right? If it's not 5 times better quality, I'm going to take my business to Vietnam. And obviously the tricky part is getting to Vietnam to get your suits made. But now that I've done it, I can actually hop on WhatsApp and talk to my boy Nin and get him to make me a suit. Hit up Duke Non Tailors and get him to make me a suit for $200 and just have him ship it to me, that he has my measurements. But it's Suit Supply for $1,000. They made me a suit. It didn't fit properly. I got it re-altered. And then when I got it altered, I had to go back, pay for the alterations, have them send it somewhere to get altered because they didn't have anyone staffed at the shop. And then so I got like a junior tailor to size me up to do my measurements and everything. Then I get it back 2 weeks later. Still doesn't fit exactly how I want to, but now I've got to take it to an event. So I've just got to take it, and measurements aren't exactly perfect. The fit's not exactly what I wanted. And I spent, $1,200 on this suit. Meanwhile, I've got my Duke Non-Tailor. Make sure I get that name right. Make sure I want to plug him properly. I'll link his tailor's like TripAdvisor page. That's what I'll do. I got him to make my suit for $200. He measured me and had it pretty much done in 48 hours. I could have had it made in 24 hours if I wanted to. He had it done correctly the first time. I had no alterations necessary, and it was the perfect material, and it fit even better than my Suit Supply suit after getting altered. So not only did I get to pick the material I wanted to, meet the tailor himself, have him get it done in lightning speed, but paid $200 for the whole process. It is no joke to get suits made in Vietnam. It's incredible. And there's a very famous place that we went to from Hanoi. Um, we flew down to Hoi An, which is a tailoring city. It's very well known for tailors. And that'll be readily apparent to you when you land. You'll see tailors on every block, recommendations for people to go to you to get tailored. Oh, and in Hanoi, obviously, I got these tattoos done. So over here on my left arm is it's the stool, okay, and then over here on my right arm, it is the cigarette, okay. So I wanted to get a tattoo because I got there, to commemorate that I've been, and I walked into the tattoo shop and I said I want the two most Vietnamese things ever. One of the two most Vietnamese things ever, and then I ended up with the stool and the cigarette, and they had this thing called the Tuc Lao. Okay, so Tuc Lao is a tobacco bong. It's a giant bamboo bong. Everybody has a different kind of Tuc Lao. Like some people would make it themselves, just like you'd make a bong at home for yourself. But it's this kind of giant pipe that's like really wide, and they use it for tobacco and a specific kind of tobacco. And after I got my tattoo done, another artist came up to me and she was like, if you really want to get the most Vietnamese things done, you should have got the Tuc Lao. And I was like, oh, what's a Tuc Lao? And he's like, she's like, show me this Tuc Lao. I was like taller than she was. And then she was like, you want to try? I was like, yeah, sure, I'll try it. And then I hit the Tuc Lao. That's also an Instagram photo of me hitting the Tuc Lao. And it almost knocked me out, man. I was on my ass. That was super strong. But that definitely was a very Vietnamese thing and super cool. I remember I walked out on the street, and because of the way that Vietnamese people are, so much more open and direct than Thai people, which is so interesting. Because I just we're a border away, and we went to Thailand right after. But in Vietnam, they want to bargain with you, they'll grab you, they'll come on, they'll like say, come on, I'll give you any price, tell me what you want. Like they'll come up to you. They're hustlers, man. But at first it's kind of jarring because they're not used to that, but then later it's endearing, and I'll definitely get to why. But this guy grabbed my arm. I think it was some kind of like Vietnamese gangster or something. He like grabbed my arm when I had the saran wrap around my arm after I got my tattoo, and then he was like, what's this, man? And in Vietnamese. And then there's a stool like right there, because there's stools everywhere, and that's where everyone sits and eats and stuff like that. And I grabbed one off the floor, and he was like, oh shit. And then he grabbed my other arm, and then he saw the cigarette, and he went and like all of his friends started cheering and shit. I was like, holy shit. But that kind of affect of people in Vietnam is something that at first, again, is jarring, and later on is endearing, and something that you greatly miss. And that's something that especially is heightened in Hanoi, I say for sure. So anyway, fast forward, we take a flight down to Hoi An, and from here, we're booking flights based on how long we want to be there. But our friend's wedding is at like the right after Christmas, so we wanted to make sure we just got to Ho Chi Minh City or Saigon after Christmas. We go down to Hoi An, and this is the tailoring city. I have one suit made here, and I had such a good experience with my suits in Hanoi that I thought I should try to get one done here, because this is, the world famous tailoring place, the city, to do it. I had one done. It was okay. It was not bad. One thing I realized, man, my Duke Non, 1 in a million. That guy was amazing. The price was the same, and I think it maybe even a little bit cheaper in Hoi An when I asked for a discount. And when I asked for a discount, shit, how do you say this? So how you say hello in Vietnamese is Xin Chào, okay? And I learned how to say this. So I decided that I could charm my tailor and ask for a discount because they're all about this life, like discount life. And when we went on this food tour, the tour guide taught us how to say discount. Now, how you say discount is zamza, okay? But I got them mixed up. So I went to the tailor and I was trying to ask him for a discount by saying it in Vietnamese because I thought it'd be charming for a foreigner to ask for a discount in Vietnamese. And I said, Xin Chao. And then he looked at me and he said, hi, in the middle of a conversation. So it was very, very awkward. And I didn't know how. I totally forgot that it was Zamza, not Xin Chao. And his wife luckily knew what I was saying and went, Zamza? And then I went, Zamza. And then we all went, Zamza. And then I got a discount and it worked out. But luckily, it's because his wife saved me from that incredibly mortifying and awkward situation of me accidentally saying hello instead of discount to somebody I had already been talking to for like 15 minutes. That was actually at Duc Nans as well in Hanoi. But I had a suit made as well in Hoi An. It was cool. It was a city of lanterns, and we rented a bike out to go to the beach, and we also went to a place called Ninh Binh outside of Hanoi. I'm like fast forwarding, but there's so much to unpack. Ninh Binh, some of you may have seen a place called Halong Bay, and it's a place where there are giant, how would you say this? Kind of giant rock islands that go very high above the sea level that create for a very kind of picturesque experience of going to a beach and seeing all of these boats with mountains beside you and around you and pillars of land coming out of the ocean in front of you. And when we went to Ninh Binh, I had a picture of this as well on my Instagram of a guy, I don't remember his name, I'm so sorry, but he was our boat paddler, our captain, if you will. And this is for tourists, right? Obviously. But the guy we got paddled with his feet, and pretty much half the people who were paddling did it with their feet. But he paddled us for like 2 hours, and this was all for $10 to paddle us from like one end of Ninh Binh through like a lake under and through completely pitch black caves into openings with vast landscapes. We saw a mountain goat and tons of wildlife and nature and crazy stuff. And then back, for $10. So I like tipped him and doubled it and whatever, but that was pretty nuts. And so I'm like jumping back and forth. But yeah, after we got to Hoi An, spent Christmas there. And it was pretty cool. The suit was okay, but I think that it's so popular there that it was kind of hard to figure out who was the best tailor in the place. And there was one place that was extremely, I don't know how else to say this, but like I guess the best way to put it would be like, it'd be too attractive for tourists that I was turned off by it. It was like, if there's really that much talent here, then I probably don't want to go to the most famous tailor in a very touristy city. I want to try to find the guy who the rates make a lot more sense for the place that we're at, and still, it just isn't getting as much business. And we ended up getting a suit there, and it was okay. But yeah, there's definitely a few tailors there. I'm sure there's a lot of very great ones. But shout out once again to my man Duc Nhan, because that's the guy for me. It was beautiful on Christmas because they had this. Oh, where was that? Oh yeah, and then we had New Year's. It was beautiful on Christmas. They had a lantern festival, and at the lantern festival, the whole city, there's tons of photo ops with just lanterns everywhere and lights and stuff like that, and people lighting up candles and then putting them on these like paper boats and then watching them in the river with the reflections, and it was a wonderful time. Really, really cool. I definitely recommend checking it out. I think it was pretty fantastic. After that, we went to Saigon. We went to Saigon. And in Saigon, we kind of like landed, and then like the next day or something like that, we had to go to Van Silly's wedding. Van Silly's wedding was beautiful and amazing to see all of his friends and family, and I'll never forget it. And it was pretty funny because at this point, so I think I had my nails painted. So I started getting my nails painted. Let me explain that. Because I was with my girlfriend, and she in Hanoi wanted to get her nails painted just because it was cheap. It was so cheap, you know? And she said, like, I don't think she ever gets her nails painted by other people. Just like always does it herself. But decided to do it because it was just so cheap. And I was like, fuck it, I'll do it. Like that's literally the kind of person I am. Like I'll just try it just because I was like, didn't want to sit there and watch her get her nails painted. So I was like, I'll do that too. Ended up getting my nails painted, one of my hands like all white, and then I got my my hands painted by Blast when I went to work in London after that. And I actually got it painted a couple more times while I was there, just because it was cheap, and it's kind of just like it's like a cathartic experience to get your nails painted, therapeutic in a sense. And I figure one thing I really love about traveling is that when I'm at home, like if I'm in Toronto, I would never get my nails painted because I don't know, maybe I'm not secure enough in myself to do that, but it's just like too much attention, and everyone here and just understand it. But in Vietnam, I'm like, no one knows who I am. In fact, I look crazy. I'm like the tallest person in the whole country. I had like bleached hair at the time. Like I look like a complete foreigner. I'm with my white girlfriend. We're like, we stick out like sore thumbs as it is. And I'm like, I'm basically like, the one reason I love traveling is you can do whatever you want. You can be whoever you want to be. You can just try it. You can just see how it goes. You can just do stuff that you've wanted to try that you didn't feel comfortable doing because you're already a freaking alien. You're already a freaking alien, which I thought was amazing. So, and then I found out that the painted nails looked amazing with my suits. Great accent color, the white and the red suit. I think I fucking killed it with that. So no regrets on that front. That was super fun. And I kind of got off on the fact that I was like sitting with my like giant feet in this tub where they're like giving you a pedicure, and I'm like the only guy in there. And I kind of like, I don't know, I kind of like that kind of attention. Maybe that's how I got into this business in the first place. But I like when people are uncomfortable about something, or when they're shocked, or when they're having fun at my expense. I think that stuff is funny. And I really don't understand. Well, I think it's funny because I don't understand why it makes people uncomfortable. And that's what's the appeal is for me. Like, I kind of like to push people out of their comfort zones and make them question things that are like things that they believe should be normal or whatever. It's like, me painting my nails doesn't do anything negative or positive to the world. It's just something I can do. But the fact that someone might look at it and think like, how could he do that or whatever, that thought is like, it's funny to me, and it pushes my buttons, and it makes me want to show those people that I don't care and I don't think like that. So that's partially why I did it, and then kept doing it because they look good. And that's another thing. I like to experiment and be different in the first place, and I think traveling allows me to do that more easily, which is cool. So recommend just kind of putting yourself out there whenever you get the chance, see what happens, see what sticks. And it's not to say it's a trend or something. Like, I mean, guys already have their nails painted all over the place, but it's just like in your world it might not be normal. So if you get out there, get to go somewhere else, maybe you can just find out something cool that you could do that you couldn't do beforehand. Where was I? Oh yeah. So I'm in Van Silly's wedding. Oh my God, I forgot about this in Hanoi as well. Okay. So also on my Instagram is I had this thing called a ao dai. It's a traditional ao dai, and what it is a very very old traditional. Like no one even wears it anymore, but it's not a uniform. It's like a male dress almost, and they can be beautiful and kind of any pattern. Sometimes paisley, something else. They're usually pretty like kind of like not flamboyant, but bright and they stand out and shiny. And I think it's meant to be worn on special occasions like weddings and otherwise. But people in Vietnam don't wear it anymore, really. But when I was in Hanoi, because there's so much tailoring, I walked by a hotel and I saw a bellboy wearing this traditional ao dai, and he didn't speak English very well. But I walked in the hotel, I was like, "Yo, man, that thing looks sick. Do you know where I can get one?" And then he got me to talk to the like owner of the hotel, and the owner of the hotel spoke a little bit of English, and then he pointed to me to a tailor that was across the city. And in the middle of getting all my suits done, I went and got an ao dai custom tailored for me by a guy who didn't speak English at all. And I had to get him to measure me. I had to negotiate the price, and I had to, with the help of Google Voice Translate via phones, tell him what I wanted. And I think I had he called the hotel to confirm that that's what I wanted. And then I had that made for, I think, $70. Maybe the most beautiful thing that I own. And I wore that with my red pants that I got tailored at Duke Non's to Van Silly's wedding. And so I roll up to the wedding. I think I had white painted fingernails, bleach blonde hair, again, taller than everybody in the whole country, and a traditional ao dai, and everybody else is wearing American suits. So and I'm there, me and my girlfriend, and I'm like, if this wasn't enough to stand out, after the reception, or no, before the reception, after the ceremony, it was like a Christian wedding in the church. Everybody from his family was like lining up to eat, to have a piece of the body of Christ, which I refer to as a cracker crudely because I didn't remember this, even though I did go to church a little bit when I was younger. I totally just don't remember this at all. But I didn't know what they were doing. But I, the crazy motherfucker that I am, decided to go and line up to get a piece of this cracker just because it felt like people were doing this out of respect for the wedding, and I thought it'd be fun for me to do it. And Van Silly's like cousin was there with a camera shooting the wedding. And he was like, when I got in line, he was kind of like waiting for me to like go and get it or whatever. And I get to the front of the line, and the priest is like, the priest says to me while holding it, he goes, "Body of Christ." And I figured I would just follow his lead because I don't actually know what I'm doing. But I thought, maybe I just say what he says, and then I'm in the clear. So I said, "Body of Christ." And then he said, "Sorry, what was that?" I said, "Huh?" And he said, "Body of Christ." And then I said, "Body of Christ." And then he said, "Are you Catholic?" And then I said, "No." And then he said, "I cannot." And waved me away in front of the entire church in my ao dai, my bleached hair, and my painted fingernails, being 6 feet tall and proud. I had to walk out. And then Van Silly's cousin came up to me after and said, "Yo, man, why didn't he give you the cracker?" And that's when I realized everyone saw. And I was like, oh my God, what have I done, dude? And that was just the first half of the wedding. And then we went to this place called the White House for the reception. We all had dinner together, and I was a big hit actually there with the kids, especially the little girls that were running around with their iPhones, like recording me, and then I was like recording them back, and then we were all like laughing and having fun. And like the drunk old guys come over and cheers me and stuff. And it's just because I look different, I guess. But it was a very fun and welcoming experience, and I really enjoy that. And yeah, I find that tension really fun, especially being in a foreign place looking very different. I think it's kind of cool. So that was the wedding. Um, so glad that we went and did that. It was so sick to see Vans get married. Long time coming. Great guy. And his wife, so beautiful, and designed her dress herself, made her dress herself, actually. Another tailor in Vietnam who's incredibly talented. So that was really cool. And they'll be moving to Canada together, I think. She'll be moving to Canada soon, which is awesome. So in Saigon, outside of the wedding, we went and had some good stuff. One thing that if you ever go to Saigon, you have to try, it's called, well, if you've ever had banh mi, you've never had banh mi in Vietnam. Okay, banh mi in Vietnam is better than any banh mi I've had in Toronto, any banh mi I've had anywhere else. The banh mi there is the shit, okay? And this one thing, it's called lesbian banh mi, okay? And it's in Saigon. You have to try it. Lesbian banh mi, the absolute best banh mi that I've ever had. It was unbelievable, so good. And there's also great, I think it was banh mi, oh fuck, what was it? Banh mi 88 or something like that in Hanoi. That place is also incredible. Two different kinds of banh mi's. I really love the lesbian banh mi though. Gotta try that. So that's the shit, man. That shit was so good. So Saigon has just as much scooter traffic, but is an even bigger city. But in Saigon, they actually use the traffic lights, and the sidewalks are big. In Hanoi, there's like no sidewalks, tons of traffic, no traffic. It's like nuts how different it is in the north and the south. And I had no idea about anything about this at all. And the South is so much more Americanized, and they see themselves as capitalist in a communist country. And, you know, they have a totally different relationship to the North and the rest of the world in some sense with kind of their influences. And yeah, just like great big sidewalks, like more westernized restaurants all over the place. Everything's a bit more modern. And for that reason, it's a little bit different. It's kind of really cool. And there's, you know, crazy places in Saigon to check out if you just walk around the city. And there's all these markets and like markets where you go and negotiate and buy like designer shit and whatever. And my girlfriend showed me this guy named Colin A. Broadcast who goes to markets in Asia, and he like negotiates, and he has fun with it and makes these videos and shows like how you can negotiate, bargain, like teaches you how to bargain. And the whole experience is kind of very fun. And I really enjoyed it a lot. And at first when I tried it, it was kind of a salty thing where I'd like either get my price or not be happy, or not know how to talk to them in a way that would create an amicable relationship, and then end up kind of souring the deal and not understanding how to move the negotiations along and then fucking it up. But because the markets are everywhere, we decided to like go to a few places, and then I you know, figured out how I can bargain, and I learned to bargain a little bit, and we bought some stuff, and it was super fun. And in Vietnam, they're really kind of just like up your ass. If you walk through a giant market with lots of stalls, they'll like pull you. They'll ask you what the price is. They come at you like they're mad, and then by the end of it, you're like best friends once you actually make the deal. But at first, you think you're like at war with this person, and it's so fun to go through that, I guess. Whereas in Thailand, as I found out later, people are much more reserved and much less friendly to bargaining, and much less confrontational, and don't want to make a big deal out of things. And if you go to a market, you know, 50% of the time, somebody knows how to bargain or is comfortable with it. The other time, they set their price and they don't want to have to tell you that, you know, your price is too low, and they don't do low balling. They just don't do that. They just don't do that. I think there's words in Thai that can mean no, but I don't think there's a native word for it, because that is confrontation. So they don't use that term directly. And that bleeds over into the culture in a very big way. But again, that's Thailand, and that's in a second. But yeah, I learned so much about kind of the fake markets, and I learned how to bargain, and how to bring prices down, and then kind of learned some interesting things about the thought of fake stuff. So obviously, you know, fake stuff, it's like it's pirating, right? So there's that whole element to it. I mostly did it because it was fun to learn a new skill, and it felt like part of my experience as a tourist in Asia to do that, because you can't do that anywhere else. So I'm just telling you because I think, if you go over there, that's just part of the world. Go ahead and try it. Just have some fun with it, and give that a chance. And I recommend checking out Call in a Broadcast on YouTube for videos, and just like to see how it is. But yeah, basically a bargaining, how it would look would be like, they give you a price. Let's say the price is $100. You give them an absurdly low price, $20. Okay. In your head, you take them down to about 20% of the price, but you're looking to pay about 30% or something like that. So they take you down, and then you take them down to 20%, and then they either say you're absolutely nuts, get the fuck out, or they go, come on, man, like that's crazy. I can't really do that. And then you bumped it up a little bit from there. You show them that you know what you're doing, okay? But you also show them that you're not trying to, you are trying to buy something, not trying to embarrass them and tell them how like you can go get the same thing somewhere else. Don't do that. I did that. Don't do that at first. And I realized like, everybody there understands that people are going to bargain, and it's mostly just about respecting the person you're bargaining with. And even though you're bringing their price down, it's because they will sell it to a Vietnamese person for that price. And they will sell it comfortably to a tourist who knows about bargaining for a price close to that, maybe still a little bit more. But as long as they know that you're going to buy, you can bring that price down a lot. And then you go back and forth a little bit. And then at one point where they won't move and you won't move, you go, okay, fine. You walk away. Then they bust out the famous calculator, the infamous calculator, pull it out, and they go, just give me the final price. Tell me what your final price is. They give you the calculator. You put in the calculator. They go like this. You go, oh my god! And then you go, okay. And then you like add like you add like a little bit to it, and then you show it to them again, and then they give you one final price, and then you accept the price and you walk away. And then you smiles, and then they shake their hand, say thank you, have a very nice day, and take care. And then that's it. And that's kind of what I did with a few things in Saigon. Highly recommend trying to bargain and learning how to bargain. It's really easy and fun. For New Year's, okay, I'm going to speed this up a little bit. We went to Thailand. We went to Chiang Mai. And once again, we were booking flights because the flights within Southeast Asia were $100 or less, or around $100, whatever, kind of no matter where you went. So we went to northern Thailand, and I think, was this in Saigon? But there was one point, I think, when I was in the Vietnamese airport. I can't remember if it was in Hanoi or leaving Vietnam, but I had, oh my god, we had like gone through security, through customs, into the terminal to get to our gate, and then someone came and grabbed me and then brought me back through security all the way to the front of the airport. And because I spoke Vietnamese, I couldn't even ask them what it was, and I thought I was getting fucking abducted in, like, basically abducted in a communist country. Who knows the hell was going to happen to me. That's what I thought. And it turned out I had left a battery, I had left a power bank inside of my checked luggage, and I had to figure that out because he just opened my suitcase and like pointed at it when they brought me into a back room. Man, I thought I was in such deep shit. And my girlfriend's like sitting basically at the gate and trying to figure out, I need to get to my plane, and I'm getting dragged into a back room in a foreign country. No one speaks English. I don't know what's going to happen to me. And I ended up figuring it out. He was mad at me, and he said something like, waste my time. When I was explaining to him, I was like, I don't know what you want me to do. And he was so fed up with me. Eventually let me go, figure that out, got on the plane, got to northern Thailand, and spent a week or more in Chiang Mai. Just a beautiful place, a wonderful place with giant markets, some of the most friendly people that I've ever met on the planet. Like I we ended up staying there longer than we intended to. We went to a ethical reserve for elephants where they take care of some elephants, and you're not allowed to ride them and do a bunch of other stuff that they do at some other places. But there's an elephant sanctuary, and that was a pretty awesome experience. Got to meet the elephants and see how they acted with each other, and like got to learn that elephants have like their own personalities, and it's pretty eye opening and really cool and crazy just how smart they are. And to learn that about animals kind of adds so much perspective, I feel like, to our human experience in a very condescending way, but a very interesting way. And now I get to move over to Thai food, which is kind of like a mix between like Thai food of its own identity and also Indian food a little bit, where you have curries, but the curries in Thailand have coconut milk, which what I learned from going to Thailand is that all curries should have coconut milk. Coconut milk makes curry better, I think 10 times out of 10. I loved having all of that, all the curries at all their coconut milk all over the place. They also have this wonderful thing in northern Thailand called butterfly pea tea, and it makes your drinks blue. And you can look this up, butterfly pea tea, PEA drinks, and just see like all of these different kinds of drinks. They can make the butterfly pea tea coffee, butterfly pea tea cocktails, butterfly pea tea juices, and they even do butterfly pea tea dye for sticky rice. And sticky rice and mango was my favorite fucking food while I was there. It was like $1 or $2 every time. Thailand's a little bit more expensive than Vietnam, but still not very expensive. Super cheap and delicious. Just beautiful. Just a nice handful of sticky rice, palm full of sticky rice, some sliced mangoes on the side, a little coconut milk drizzled on coconut cream or milk drizzled on top of it. Sometimes the rice was white, sometimes it was blue. Just a beautiful summer food to have. And it's always summer there, so you're always happy. Man, I loved that shit. That was my go-to. Every single place that we went to, they had giant night markets because of that. They were like consistently, because there's like not that much rain and tons of warm weather. So we stayed in the old quarters in Chiang Mai, and they would have our Airbnb is right by its giant street, which was a huge night market. You walk down, people are doing massages everywhere because that's very popular in Thailand. Like foot massages on the side, as well as tons of restaurants, clothes for sale, custom jewelry. I had a bunch of rings that I bought, and these rings were like $1 each, and they were all made out of coins. So they were all kind of reforged from copper coins into these cool rings. And the guy was sitting there who made all of them, just a giant pile, a mountain of rings, and he resized them for me. And I just got so much stuff for cheap that was like incredible that you'd pay tons of money for out here. I actually got recognized twice on this trip, so shout out to the two guys who recognized me. I got recognized in Hoi An on Christmas, and by somebody who was there. I got recognized, and then I got recognized when I was with my girlfriend in Chiang Mai at the we were in a bar off of the night market, and I was sitting having a drink. We were listening to some music in a back patio at this bar, and as we get up to go, this guy comes up to me, and he was from I think he was from Australia, and he was like, "Yo, are you Launders?" And I was like, "Holy shit!" And then like him and his girlfriend were there and hung out for a second and chatted. I was like, "Holy fuck!" Got recognized in like some random corner of the world, like the middle of northern Thailand. So nuts. Yeah, that was pretty surreal. But a lot of the time we spent in northern Thailand was like going to markets as well. Tons of night markets to hang out in, and eating a lot of the curries, on the hunt for really good food. And I will say, I think after we went from northern Thailand, I like the food in southern Thailand more. The food in northern Thailand, I feel like wasn't as satisfying. And I don't think that the spice levels, everyone says northern Thailand spices are stronger. I have a very high spice tolerance, and I would say most of the places never would serve you spicy food because of the amount of tourism, I guess. But also, even when they increase spice levels to what they would eat themselves, like if you had a tom yum kun, which is like, if I said that properly, it's like a shrimp soup. Um, you'd get red Thai chili peppers in it, and to increase the spice levels, they just add more. So you could get that same level of spice no matter where you are in Thailand. They're still using the same spices, same peppers, just more of them or whatever. And I found they were even spicier when I went south at some of these places. So I like the curry. The curries were a bit more watery, not quite as like creamy in the north as they were in the south. So I don't know. I had this very high expectation for northern Thailand food, and I went to every single place, and fuck everybody who uses TripAdvisor and then goes to these restaurants that are looking for top-rated Thai restaurants in northern Thailand, and then they fucking go there and order burgers and shit. Like, please, why don't you just go to somewhere that's not highly rated? You know what I mean? Just go somewhere like that serves that, but please don't go to the places that are rated highly for being Thai restaurants in Thailand if you don't have the intention of eating the Thai food, okay? Or anywhere you go, please. I tried so hard just to find any restaurants. You know how much of a turnoff it is to go to spend thousands of dollars to go to a new place, and then you get to that, and then you get to this like very foreign city with all this culture shock, and then you sit down at a Thai restaurant with a Thai waitress, and you open the menu, and the first thing you see is spaghetti and burgers. It's terrible. It's just terrible, And I get it. People are far away from home. You miss that, like you miss that if you've been away from home for a long time. Stay away from the top rated restaurants, please. Like I could not find, or not necessarily don't go to top rated restaurants, but try to find some Americanized restaurants. Don't go to the ones that are known for their Thai food or something, right? Stop polluting the reviewed places because it's so hard to find the good ones. I went to all sorts of them, and I left my own reviews, and we ended up using Google reviews, I think, more than TripAdvisor reviews, because the TripAdvisor reviews are more polluted than the others. And they had all kinds of things where they would like give you free things for leaving good reviews, so couldn't really trust TripAdvisor that much, although it did sometimes point you in the right direction. I think Google reviews is where it's at. And ended up having one really memorable meal there. I think the best meal I had in northern Thailand was we did a cooking class. We did that in Hanoi as well, so that we could learn. We got like a cookbook from each class, and learned how to make a masaman curry, and like papaya salad, something like that. And that was amazing, actually. I think it was the best meal that I had in northern Thailand was the one that I made in a cooking class. So shout out to that cooking class. It was pretty cool. You'd go out to a market, you'd buy the groceries at the market, and then you come back and then you make it. And then so you get to see kind of how the sausage is made, the whole process, and then eat it as well, and hang out with some new friends who are either travelers or also just from different parts of Thailand or whatever. And something that's super cool, and something that's really cool about having kind of a homogenous population, is in those markets, they'd have like pho pack. So they'd have, or like a bun cha pack or something, like the vegetables and spices and stuff all wrapped up in a market, all fresh, and you'd pick that up, and then you could pay for just those things, and you'd have all the ingredients and the perfect proportions to make like a bowl of pho, or to make a bun cha, or make a bowl of tom yum kun, whatever it is. And I love that, like, because and sorry, we were in Thailand, so for different Thai foods, that's what you could do. And I thought that was pretty awesome. But yeah, that was kind of northern Thailand, and we ended up staying extra days, walking around, going to restaurants, trying stuff, seeing new areas and how it's developed. And Chiang Mai really feels like a place that you could call it a day, that you could retire and just end this beautiful place. It's very peaceful. The people are the friendliest people I've probably ever met in my life. Like, on average, the culture, it's just very slow paced enough, friendly, not too expensive. Don't think there's too many natural disasters. Doubtful that northern Thailand is going to get invaded anytime soon. I think it'd be a great place to retire. Something I'll think about probably when I get older. Honestly, beautiful place. Highly recommend it. After northern Thailand, we flew right for the islands. So we went to Krabi, and from Krabi, Krabi's kind of a port basically. So I'm just gonna take a look at a map just so I can remember, because there's so many islands in Thailand to consider. And basically, in Krabi, if you look on a map, it's just in the southernmost part of Thailand, just above Malaysia. And from Krabi, you can go to different islands all over the place. And on the other side, there is another set. There's like Phuket, which is another place that people go. We went to Krabi. Krabi had a night market with the best massaman curry and the best green curry that I've ever eaten in my life. So as touristy as it was an absolutely incredible meal that they had. And we went back there every night. It was so consistent and so fucking good. From Krabi, there is a few places that we went. So we went to Railay Beach, which was a small boat trip away, but not accessible by land. And we did rock climbing there. We have a rock climbing photo. This was kind of nuts because I was basically there with my girlfriend, and I had heard, and Semler and a couple other people were like, you got to go climbing in Thailand, some of the most famous climbing in the world. I had never even climbed outside before. I've been doing a little bit of bouldering, indoor gyms on weekends, not right now, but in general. And so I was like, man, once in a lifetime opportunity, got to try this. And I ended up finding like a rock climbing center to call them to set up a time where I could go and learn how to climb. And I didn't know what to expect, if they'd let me do it, if I needed training. But obviously it's Thailand, so they're just like, let you do it. You just pay some money, you'd be able to do it. I was like, cool, I'll try that. And then I was like, they're like, oh, but it will take this whole afternoon for like 5 hours. And my girlfriend, who like my girlfriend like goes to the gym, but she's not exactly adventurous. She's in shape, but not exactly adventurous, I would say. I was surprised enough, though, that she had to come out this far in the first place. And when I talked about climbing and stuff like that, like I almost thought for sure, like there'd be absolutely no way she would climb the side of a mountain. Like to go up 100 feet on the side of a rock face just seemed completely not even out of her wheelhouse, but just out of the discussion, just like not even something that she'd even consider trying. And of course, when I asked her, she was like, no, it's fine. You can go. And because the place that we were at, Railay Beach, was landlocked, we had to take a boat to get back. She didn't even have her SIM card set up yet, and there would be no way for me to be with her as she went back. If she wanted to go back by herself, I'd have to go and find her afterwards. And I was a bit worried about, leaving my girlfriend, like in another part of Thailand, basically, and doing this thing. But I really wanted to do this thing, and she said she's very independent, and said that she was fine with me. I could go do it. And then after that, I was like, okay, I signed up because I'm not going to turn this down. And then we go to the beach, and then she's like not talking to me, and then I'm like trying to figure out if I'd like been annoying or something like that. But I had not been pushy about this at all, because I thought, I knew she wouldn't want to do it, or at least just had it in my head like, no way she's going to do it. And so I just was like trying to be like as like just kind of affable as possible. Just like be friendly and give her space. I didn't really know what was going on. She seemed very like standoffish. And then, we go to the beach. I got in the water. She wanted to get in the water. I was like, what's going on? And then I was like, okay, it's about time that I go to the thing to sign up. And then she's like, all right, let's go. And then we go to do it. And then I get on the phone with the instructor. I'm like, hey man, I'm just here waiting. And then she all of a sudden is like, should I do it? And I was like, what? And she's like, should I sign up? And I was like, yes, yes. And then she ended up doing this with me and climbing 3 routes on rock faces where she has never climbed before, in a gym or otherwise. No experience whatsoever. and agreed to do this. And I had never even done it. I was scared myself. We learned how to tie an egg knot properly, to learn how to climb the mountain in the first place, wear all the safety gear for the first time, climbed all of them. She was there and did them all, only dropped once on the entire time out of all 3 routes. On the 3rd route, we were up 100 feet, which is nuts. And yeah, I really couldn't believe what I was watching. Like, I had no idea that she was capable of this, that she even had any interest in doing it. But she totally kind of like blew me away with that, and then ended up finishing all the routes, which was nuts. And then after that, we went back from Railay Beach back to Krabi. The next day, we did a 10-island boat tour, okay? And I would just like to preface this with, do not ever fucking do this. If you ever see a package in Thailand for multi-island boat tours, unless they're private, do not get them, okay? We end up doing a private boat tour the next day or the day after, but this first one was so traumatizing. We almost didn't want to do anything after this. Here's how it went down. You pay about a fourth of the price, if I remember correctly, of a private boat tour. And that means that for a private boat tour, you pay $100 or so, or $200 or whatever. Just pay that. If it's your one time in fucking Thailand, hopefully you have $200 extra. That should be the price of a boat tour. Just pay that, okay? Because they're not going to follow regulations in Thailand. Those boats are going to be fucking packed. And what we did was we paid for kind of premium passes, which were a little bit more expensive, but still cheaper because it was a group tour for this 10-island boat tour or whatever it was, 7-island, 8-island, I don't even remember. And what we ended up going to this long dock with hundreds of people, and all of those people were getting shuttled onto these different boats. And we had like these blue wristbands. There was a number of people with these yellow wristbands, and we were on the big boat, and then there was people on the small boat, the yellow wristbands. We all ended up going onto the same big boat. So we're sitting on the same big boat, shoulder to shoulder, with about 40 people on a boat, on a big boat, right? This is 40 people on the big boat, or whatever, 30, 40 people, and are already cramped, right? Now, we're asking our guy who is calling himself Superman Joe, and he said, Superman Joe has got your back. You trust Superman Joe? Superman Joe will keep you safe. Okay, Superman Joe is the man for the job. Don't worry. If you're pregnant, if you're hurt, if you're injured, I'm your guy. Don't worry. Put your trust in me. Kept just talking and yelling at us and reassuring us when we weren't even nervous, but now we were. And we went off on this boat tour. I'm like, so when did we separate for the people who bought the big boat tickets? It's like, oh, it's fine if everyone wants to stay on the same boat. It's all good. And we're like, well, what if we don't want to stay on the same boat? Because we paid for these. And ended up having to not only go from our big boat with 35 to 40 people on it, but transferring to a smaller boat, a long-tail boat, which you can think of like a tugboat, okay, like a kind of bigger tugboat. That's what we were on. And then we ended up on a little tiny long-tail boat, which was basically just like an oversized dinghy and had the same amount of people on it. Okay. I'm not sure if there's pictures that I can show to help you understand the scale at which I'm talking, but there was basically a boat with 40 people sitting beside each other, shoulder to shoulder. We all moved onto a boat that should have fit maybe 10 people. To give you perspective, our private tour that we took the next day or two was the longtail boat that we had, just us two and a driver and one other guy. That was how many people go on that boat. Maximum 10 people, 12 people if you're really carpooling, okay? Not 30 to 40 people. People were sitting on top of each other. People were crouched on the boat in the middle of the people that were sitting on the sides of the boat, okay? And we're wondering what the fuck is going on. And after we get to the first island, people thought this was just this island. No. We had to go from this big boat to the small boat, and then onto the small boat, onto the big boat, transfer to the next island, small boat, island, back to the small boat, big boat, island, the entire time. And this was getting dangerous to the point that we got to one of the islands, and we couldn't even get close to the island And because the tide had like, we took too long and the tide had already lowered or something like that, but he was still adamant that we were going to get out and go onto the island. There was a woman that was pregnant on this boat, and there was sea urchins, which, if you've ever seen a fucking sea urchin, it's literally an object made by whoever made this planet to kill things. It looks like a fucking Sonic. It looks like Sonic. If it looks like, what the fuck does it look like? It literally it looks like a giant, what are those things that stick to you? Those plants that stick to you. It's basically just a giant black spiked ball that's meant to hurt you and poison you. And if you step on it, you'll get a severe shock, an extreme amount of pain, and potentially could die. I don't know if it's that strong, but probably kill someone small. Definitely don't want to get stabbed by it if you're pregnant. I had slippers on. They wanted me to get off the boat into the water. And I could potentially lost my slippers and step on a fucking sea urchin and get to the island. We end up getting close enough that this boat that we're on, the longtail boat, is bumping rocks underneath the boat. And Superman Joe is pushing us along with his oar into the water to get us over top of rocks. Meanwhile, I'm staring at this fucking pregnant woman that's sitting here holding her stomach with a child that looks like it's ready to go, honestly. And just, I can only imagine the thoughts that were going through her mind. Like, seriously, this is unbelievable. Like, this is clearly a safety violation. This would be totally illegal in another country. But, that's the thing about Thailand. If you've got a little bit of money or people are trying to make money, anything can happen. And after this, I basically told him, like, yo, you're getting us off this trip. I was like, basically, this is not, he's like, you're not having fun? I was like, this is not fun. And we ended up getting onto another boat and then sharing our stories with a few other people who were also somehow on our trip in the beginning. And we got shuttled off separately. And it was basically a complete nightmare. Halfway through on this boat tour, when we were on the big boats, Superman Joe is so stressed out because of all of the people he had to take care of and all of these crazy things that kept happening, all these delays, all these issues, that he had these kind of like water tins. They have it's like a plastic water cup with a foil on top, and then you like pop a straw in it and drink from that. He was just at one point punching these open and then throwing the water on his face and then throwing the cup in the ocean. And like, at one time he walked by us after I had already told him that we're going to get off this boat and we want to leave. And I was like very confrontational and like, fuck you, we're getting off this tour. And I couldn't believe no one else did, or even wanted to try. But I was like, you're figuring this out. And he walked by us and we knew that was already the case with us. And he says, and he said he popped open one of the water tins and then threw some water on his face and he leaned over and he said, Joe wants to die. And we were just like, oh, okay. I was just like, I hope no one else heard that. That sounded really fucking morbid and scary because this guy was like the most upbeat. Something's wrong with this dude, but like, I don't think a personality that was less eccentric could have held together such an insane operation day after day. So I feel like this is what he deals with all the time. And I think he has the personality to match, but Jesus Christ, I couldn't believe that when he walked up beside us and said, Joe wants to die. That was just it was like so out of character and just like scary and like, what the fuck is going on? But that was pretty much the silver lining of that trip for me. From there, we went back, recollected ourselves, went to the market again, got some beer, and then we went to on another boat tour. This one was pretty awesome. So we did 2 more boat tours actually, because this was the whole idea behind Krabi, is that you go here as a port city and then you go to these different islands via tours or whatever. And we ended up going to a couple of really cool places. We ended up spending 4 days in Koh Lanta. So Koh Lanta is a little island even farther south than Krabi. And it's basically got one road around the entire island. And I don't have a driver's license. I don't have a driver's license in Toronto. I have learned how to drive from my friends. I just never owned a car. Toronto, you never really need to own a car in your whole life if you want to. Like it sounds crazy to people, some people, because I know like I've been to other cities where that would be absurd, but like in Toronto when you're in university, your professors are on the subway going to school with you. Like it's like totally normal to not have a car here because we have good public transit, and it's just like more eco-friendly and whatever the culture or whatever. But I just like never bothered to get a license. Probably should. But the reason that I'm saying that is because I ended up renting a scooter, and you can rent scooters in Thailand. You give them money, they give you keys. Don't need a license. And I ended up like, because if you don't have a scooter in Koh Lanta, and every hotel will give you one for like $10 a day, and you just pay for the gas yourself. You can't get around the island. You have to pay for like a taxi, of which there's not really a taxi, and then you get ripped off, and it's hard to get from point A to point B. We had to get a scooter basically, so I rented a scooter. My girlfriend didn't want to rent her own scooter, even though she drives and had her international driver's license. She's like, "Can you just drive?" And then just like drive me around. I was like, "Hell yeah, hell yeah!" I've been waiting for this day my whole life. I know I love driving, even though I don't have a car, just from my light experience driving my friends' cars growing up. So here's a story of how I learned how to drive, or like what I used to do. So my friend Zahoro, when I was younger, and like 15 years old, 14, 15 years old, maybe, Zahoro would steal his dad's car keys at like 2 a.m., pick up me and my three Turkish friends. Our little best friend group is three Turkish guys, Ali, Okan, and John, and Zahoro, is a Bengali kid, and me. And he would steal his dad's car. Everyone would steal their dad's cars. I didn't have a car in my apartment, so we would drive their cars, and we would just at like 2 a.m. and like drive to McDonald's, okay, and just like drive to McDonald's, drive back, park the car, put the keys back, like get the right amount of gas in the car again if you need to, and then just do that at night. That was literally what we did for fun, was steal our dad's cars and then drive to McDonald's, and that's how we all learned how to drive. And then after that, I've driven like a couple other times, no real experience outside of that. And that's pretty insane. But we stayed at the Futara Lanta Resort, rented the bikes from there. I rented the bike from there, drove around the island, the entire fucking island. It's amazing. It was amazing. Scootering around this island was probably my favorite part of this whole thing. Just going to these different beaches, seeing what we saw, going on these like small hikes, different beaches, which is incredible. The 4 days there, loved it, really loved it. And what can I say? If you guys need recommendations, I've got a Google map full of places to go. Definitely recommend. We went to go to this place called Klong Dao, which was a beach, the longest, flattest beach that I've ever seen, which created for a very mystical experience when you looked out at the sunset, where the sand was wet for such a long distance from the shoreline that you would have the sunset come up, and an entire reflection across the sand in front of you that spanned hundreds of meters because of how long the tide was, and it would be reflected right in front of you. So it was like looking off of the earth. It was like as if you were looking off of the earth or something ethereal. It was almost an ethereal experience. Really crazy. We went there 3 nights out of the 4 in total. And one night we sat down at this place called the Indian Bar, and we were just having a drink, watching the sunset, kind of praying that we'd get like the great sunset. And all of a sudden, this guy just busts out what was called the fire show and starts lighting up the beach with these crazy fire tricks. And it was the owner of the bar. You could probably look it up, Indian Bar Fire Show, and in Koh Lanta. And it happened to be just right in front of us, and he did that every night. So we went back and kind of revisited that after just being blown away and taken by surprise the first time. And then, oh man, this is getting so long, and there's so many stories within stories and stuff. And I really didn't plan this out, and I should have. But after this, we went to Bangkok. And then in Bangkok, There's a few more islands that we visited. And then after this, we went to Bangkok and got to see Bangkok, which is pretty fantastic. I think we spent 7 days in Bangkok, something like that. This is where I went absolutely ham on the markets. We went to every single market, I think, in the city. Bangkok is a crazy fucking place. Extremely busy. Just cool for a lot of reasons. Like it's crazy how many malls they have. So because it gets so hot there, like think a really busy city that's extremely smoggy and hot. And like there's tons of like prostitution, obviously, and sex work and nightlife and shit like that. And when you're walking around the city, it's just like very like kind of entertaining and interesting to go and see. Go ahead and check out Soy Cowboy if you get the chance in Bangkok for some real crazy shit. And then there's all these different night markets we went to. The Patpong night market, MBK or Map Boon Krong, Platinum Fashion Mall had a great market. There was one extremely big one. There was a Chatuchak weekend market. I think that's correct. There was so many. And you basically ended up like walking or taking the subway to go around to see all of them at night. And in the day in Bangkok, there are networks of malls, giant, beautiful, clean, just exquisite malls, pristine malls all over the city that are connected to each other because it's so hot that everyone just spends all their time in the day in malls, and then at night they hang out at a market. It's kind of a cool way to do it because it's so damn hot. But that's pretty much what we did the entire time. And these malls, I just did went out to do a lot of bargaining and checking stuff out, which I thought was fantastic. And then in the daytime, hung out in these malls. I had some great food in Bangkok. And I think this is probably the most expensive city of all the ones that we went to. But still, just really good. Stayed at a hotel. And the other thing is the hotels that we stayed at were not that expensive. In fact, people were looking at my Instagram stories and were like, wow, you spent so much money on these Airbnbs. And in Vietnam, we were spending for like art house style Airbnbs that were super beautiful. They costed $10 to $20 a day to stay in. I mean, we really did not spend as much money on Airbnbs, and my girlfriend's very frugal, and I've learned to become a bit more frugal, but you could really see that you could save money if you wanted to on Airbnbs, and, made it a point not to spend all our money on the hotels because we ended up wanting to go outside and see the places for the most part. So you can get fantastic accommodations for not that expensive all over the place. The islands are a bit more expensive. Bangkok's a bit more expensive, but Vietnam is dirt cheap no matter where you go, and all of it is so much cheaper than North America in general. So can't really complain. And yeah, from there I went to 3 weeks in London to cast for Blast, and then came home. And I'm finally unpacking it here, and I feel like I really did a bad job of taking you guys through the trip, and this is very disjointed and unplanned. But I put this off for a while. I think I really wanted to talk about this trip as much as I could, get it all out there. I mean, I highly recommend it. It was an amazing experience and one that I'll never forget. And I've done a lot of traveling, even this in 2019. I can say that even outside of esports, I've done that. And in August, me and my best friends drove from Toronto to British Columbia and camped in every single province that we could, and got to see incredible things, in like Banff, for example, seeing Lake Louise, probably the most beautiful thing I've ever seen in real life, to all those mountains, Glacier Lake, going on these crazy hikes, seeing the nature of Canada and the beautiful country that we live in. And a few years ago, I did that trip on the East Coast out to the East Coast of Canada, just so we could nail every single province in the country. And we pretty much did that. My best friend's gonna have his bachelor party in Alaska. Not Alaska, sorry, in the Yukon. So we're gonna go in there next. I'm grateful to have friends that are very adventurous. I personally would travel alone. I'm grateful to be in esports and to be able to travel. I think I'm the right guy to have the job because I like soak it up any chance I get. I'm grateful to, have some kind of following to share it with that makes it more fun for me and to talk about it with. Honestly, if it weren't for other people, I don't know how much I would enjoy it in a sense. Um, which is, I don't know. I think about that sometimes. Like, is that a good thing or a bad thing? I don't know. But I guess I can, just expect that to never change. Like, I would be terribly unhappy if I didn't have, like, I don't need to have a lot of friends. I just need to have the ones that I have. As long as if that changed, I'd be unhappy for that reason alone. It wouldn't be because I wouldn't be able to share my travels and get to brag to my friends about the cool shit I did and whatever. It would be because I don't have those friends. So I don't know. People make life better for me. People are very important to me, and as much as I would do it like by myself, I can't lie. I mean, I don't think there's much I would do if it wasn't for other people in the world, let alone like my best friends. So yeah, shout out to my girlfriend for coming on this trip with me. That made the trip so much more special. And kind of just being as impulsive as I was, just be like, yeah, sure, let's do it. After I kind of almost jokingly said, "Do you want to go do this thing?" And yeah, want to do more traveling and more logging. And I recommend hit me up on Instagram to see what I post. So when I travel, I post a lot of stuff on Instagram, and I have lots of stories and stuff like that to post when I have a free moment. And yeah, let me know if you've listened to this whole video. The code word is wait, no, that wouldn't be a good code word. The code word is banana. Okay, if you've gotten this far, you've heard me say banana. Okay, I'm just curious if anybody bared with me through this entire thing to listen to me drone on and on about these travels in classic Launders disjointed fashion with lots of ums and ahs, lots of forgetfulness, monotone voice. If you guys stuck with it, I'd really like to know. If any part of that stuck out to you, I hope it's the part that if you travel, you get the chance to try to be whoever you want. I think that's the number one best thing that you can't get from anything else in life. And I hope if you get the chance, you try it. You do that. You get out there, go see stuff. One trip isn't going to change your life if you don't want it to, but you shouldn't go out with it with that expectation. You should go out with it to slowly broaden your horizons, add perspective to your world, understand other people's cultures, start to understand how certain perspectives are made and have an appreciation for them, and create an understanding between you and somebody you don't understand. Bring, you and that person a little bit closer so that you get less mad about the way other people are, or like how they could have crazy beliefs or be a certain way in social situations. You get to see all that stuff in practice and see how norms are different all over the world, and see what you like and don't like, and try to, get closer to our fellow people, and all of it is pretty beautiful and fun and interesting and enriching, and that, I don't know how important traveling is in life, but I'd say it presents you a very human experience that you can't get many other ways. Maybe you're fortunate enough to be in a multicultural city, but even then, those people, it's a homogenous in some sense. Those people are all quite similar in that culture. I live in Toronto. Still very different from, knowing Vietnamese people in Toronto and going to Vietnam and seeing how they eat pho or like whatever, all that shit, Yeah, that's it. Okay. Played Valorant for 9 hours. Probably going to play more Counter-Strike. Weird situation we're all in right now. A lot of people staying home watching content. Make sure to wash your hands, guys, and we'll get through this. We'll get through this together. Okay. If you want to buy a shirt, store.box.gg. Making skateboards next. Don't know when they're going to be released, considering the circumstances, the situation we find ourselves in. But that'll be next up on the list. And that's it for me, man. All right, I'm out. Take care, everybody.